Welcome to the 2021 Winter Outlook. I've done these now for a few years. Some have been great, some have been not so good. I think last winter, if you like snow, was probably one of the worst winters on record. So the good news is, if you want some snow, you'll likely do very better, much better than you did last year. The question is how much. So let's jump right to it. I'm going to start with the maps. So temperatures, I'm expecting average temperatures across most of the center to mid-Atlantic and southern New England region. A lot of this will be front-loaded in December and January with colder temperatures, and then should back off by February. Core of the cold, definitely in the northern central part of the United States, and those below normal temperatures extending even into, I think, northern New England. Getting into snowfall and some of the highlights that I posted yesterday, I expect a very average snowy winter, above average snowy winter, central part, north central part into New England. So ski areas, I think, have an excellent winter this year. Areas like Stowe, Killington, etc. I have traditional winter snowfall into the mid-Atlantic. So what this means is, I think you'll look back and say, you know what, it was a decent winter, meaning it was an average winter. Not the best, not the worst. I think overall it does well. Very important though. I do think all the research I've done in terms of the weather patterns in historical years, I think the winter starts stronger and ends weaker in February, meaning I think we see more snow and cold late November in through January, and then it should back off some in February this year. Again, there's no guarantee. I mean, this is tough to predict, but that's what my research indicates. And then March is a wild card, so you could have a great March, you could have a poor March. I'm not even going to try to predict March at this time, so that really could tip the scales. March one way or the other, but again, more of a front-loaded winter. And then down here, I think it's going to be warmer and drier. I think there will be influence of a southeast ridge, meaning warmer air will really try to fight back at times, as it's done in recent years. But I think you're going to have enough influence from a northern jet stream to push cold air across the country this year. So let's take a look at a few things that I'm looking at to make this forecast. Well, the first thing I'm looking at is, like everybody else, I'm looking at the models. So I'll show you a few models right now. This is the American climate forecast system. This is December, January, February. Now, all you're looking at here is where areas of low pressure, higher pressure, warm, cold air. You're seeing it's trying to show a lot of energy originating in just to the north of the United States, coming in off the Pacific Northeast into the northwest of the country. This makes sense given what we'll be seeing a La Nina-like pattern. So I think what you will see is energy cutting in, coming across, consolidating a lot out west, but also pushing across at times. These models are never going to show cold. They just haven't in recent years. They can't see cold. But all the major climate models are showing something similar. This is the British model. Again, this shows a lot of energy out west. It shows what would traditionally say, hey, that's going to be very warm in the east. Now, this could happen, but I do think what you're going to see, unlike last year, is I think you will see the energy push across at times because you'll have a stronger northern jet stream. I think the Pacific jet stream will be variable enough where it's not always going to be shooting warm Pacific air into the country. I think it will back off at times and let the northern jet come in, meaning you'll have cold air pushing across the country, originating out west, but also shooting some residual cold air to the eastern states frequently, especially earlier in the winter. So I look at the climate models. I take them seriously because they're not horrible, but I do try to make some adjustments. And the Europeans doing the same things. You could see it has all the energy originating out to the northwest. But again, I think the bias here is I think this will push a little more east when all is said and done. So I think you'll see this more negative anomaly over, say, in this area right in here, and it'll continue to push across. Now, what's interesting is I like to look at the fall pattern. This was through October 23rd. Now, the adjustment would be we just had a storm out in the west, so you'd see more negative anomalies down here, and you'd see more warmer anomalies coming up to New Jersey. But I think the idea of this negative sitting up here is a pretty good proxy for the winter. And what that means is, again, I think you're going to see a persistent theme of an active northern jet this year. So yes, this northern jet will combine with energy from the subtropical jet or Pacific jet to the west at times, causing the ridge to flare up and rain in our area where it snows out west. But again, I've said it a few times already, I think you're going to see a lot of storms that also try to push across at times too, which will bring our area to at least average snowfall, with New England getting a really good brunt of it. Now, why this isn't above average, because I do think a lot of storms will cut in and you'll see mixing in rain a lot of times, which is pretty traditional for a La Nina winter. But again, we're average because I think we'll have enough snow to basically hit the numbers we have to hit when it's all said and done. What does La Nina normally look like? This is a good image from Weather Nation. Pacific jet stream that's more variable, so it's not a consistent Pacific jet that just shoots a blowtorch across the country. most importantly, you have an active polar jet, which we have not seen in recent years at times. So I think this active polar jet will allow cold air to stay on the playing field for this year. La Nina is characterized by sea surface temperature anomalies. You have colder anomalies near the equator in the tropical Pacific. El Nino, you would have warmer. So what this does is it causes more subsidence, something called a Walker circulation, which is a cluster of thunderstorms moves more to the west. So you have high pressure develop instead of a low pressure center develop, which causes that northern jet to have a little bit more influence on the weather in the northern part of the country. I like to see this little cold pool right here. Others have noted research that could mean that you could have a little bit more of a chance of some colder air pushing more into the United States. We'll see what that means. But the oceans are fairly warm, so I think we ought to make some adjustments based on what historical years have shown versus what this year might show. So my two historical analogs, I've looked at a lot of analogs, but overall it is 2011 and 2018. Both were La Nina years with decent magnitude La Ninas. And I think looking at everything, and they make the most sense on what could be a proxy for what could happen. I made adjustments to this, though. So in those 2 years, you had a very active December. You could see big ridge in the west, big trough in the east. Both got off to a pretty good start with cold air and some snow. Again, I don't think it's going to be this extreme this December, but I think this isn't too far off. So take this negative, push it a little more northwest, and I think you'll have a lot of storms that, again, are pushing through the country, and we'll get a little bit of action on the East Coast. As we head into January, based on these analogs, let's take a look right here. This shows right here January, again, similar pattern, but again, I made adjustments to this. I'm not just basing my forecast on the analogs. So the theme is, okay, still pretty snowy and cold or active in the eastern tier. But again, I would say pull this back a little to the northwest. But the common theme and the point I want to make here is when you get to February, you could see things really try to back off. And I've seen that consistency. This happened in 2018, especially where winter then came roaring back in March. Didn't really come roaring back in March so much in 2011. But this is why I have February backing off. You can see some pretty impressive warm spells in February in Eastern Tier. But I do still think up in northern New England, you still will get, it might be warmer, but I still think you get some snow in February. So I think overall, to my earlier point, it's a pretty solid winter there. March is a wild card, so anything goes for March. But overall, if you look at averages, and a lot of people I follow are in New Jersey, this is from lightinthestorm.com, great website. This shows average snowfall for New Jersey, and you can kind of see, obviously, northwestern and the highlands gets more snow. But this is what an average winter would give you, and I think this is a good proxy for what you can expect this winter when I say average snowfall. If we want to extend this even further, and we want to say, hey, what does average snowfall look for the majority of the Northeast? I should have a map somewhere. I thought I did. Maybe I don't. Actually, I do right here. So this is what average snowfall would look like for areas in the entire eastern tier. Actually, you know what? I don't think I have it. Hold on a second. Here we go. So this is what average snowfall would look like, roughly for the forecast area. So again, this is what I would expect with above average up here. So hope you enjoyed the outlook, guys. I want to give you a little more detail on the philosophy behind it. Again, I use analogs. I look at the models. I look at observations in the fall. I look at other things too, like wind patterns and other areas of the ocean. But overall, I want to keep it simple. Best way to sum this up is I think it's a traditional winter for most areas in the mid-Atlantic with an above average winter out west and in the interior Northeast. Thanks for checking in.